Hey everybody, it's Raine from Initiative Tabletop, and today I've got something very awesome to show you. I've been waiting to show this off for quite some time now. I don't get to talk about it much, but one of my favorite games that we have in our collection is a game called Doom and Bloom Survival. Now this was a game that was funded via Kickstarter. It was created by a company called Doom and Bloom, which is a team of a doctor and a nurse. They specialize in survival, whether it's how do I take care of myself if I cut myself on a hike? What's the best way to treat a wound? What kind of things can I eat and not eat out in the wilderness? What happens if I get locked in my car for 3 days? Things like that. Well, they took their ideas and knowledge about survival and went to Kickstarter, and then that's where Doom and Bloom Survival came from. The board game is basically about you choosing a character, and you go up against your opponents to scout locations to find colonies. The first one to scout all of their locations wins the game. And it's kind of like a race, but during the game you have to find supplies, you have to go through objectives, you have to overcome obstacles, and it's a really fun game. I love post-apocalyptic stuff, whether it's stuff like Fallout or The Last of Us or Doom and Bloom Survival. I mean, whatever it is, I love post-apocalyptic stuff. Now, during the campaign for this game, we were promised something very special. Because right now in the game, you have the character cards, and you've got these little chits that show you where you are on the map. But we were promised models, actual models modeled after the character cards to keep track of your place on the board. We finally have them, and that's what I want to show you today. So without further ado, let's take a look at the models. So here are the models that Doom and Bloom released alongside with the game. Now, there's 8 models that correspond with 8 different characters that you can play in the game. And one of the main reasons I want to show these to you is because a lot of people on the forums, on the Kickstarter campaign, BGG, they're all talking about at one time how some of the models might not come out the way they expected because some of the characters are over-sexualized, like the policeman and the nurse. So I'm actually showing these to you just to show you the final product because I'm super stoked with how they came out. So that being said, let's get started. First up is the cleric. This is Mr. Rex Rainmaker. Now, he's a pretty stout sculpt. One thing I like about these is they're about 2 inches in height. They have a nice attention to detail, and they're stout. They're not, easy to bend. They're on the hex bases that will go on the map really nice. I'll show that to you in a moment. But, I mean, he's got his walking stick. You can tell the details in his braids. He's got his little book in his hand. It's overall a really nice model. Up next is the doctor himself. He's got his little, I want to say the army smock on because it's more like a military kind of doctor garb. He's got his backpack, some supplies. You can even tell he's got a stethoscope. Again, another solid model. And here we come to the policeman. Now the policeman she's been re-sculpted, kind of redesigned to be more feminine, not so much your comic booky, large-breasted kind of character. She's, got her little hat, she's got a handgun. You can tell that they sculpted on her belt. So this is a really nice model, a really good surprise. I really liked how that came out. Now, speaking of surprises, we've got the nurse. Now, one thing you're going to notice, this is probably the most different when compared to the artwork because the nurse is fully clothed. She's got a full chest nurse's gown on. She's got some tools hanging off of her dress. She's also got some tools hanging off of her backpack. I'm super happy at the way this came out. I think that, a lot of the people who were concerned and whatnot on the Kickstarter and on the forums and stuff, I feel like they got exactly what they were hoping for out of this model. Now up next is the farmer. This is Mr. Ethan Evergreen. The farmer's got his pitchfork, got his little sun hat on. He's got a crossbow back here, some sacks over his shoulder. Again, a nice stout model. Now this one is one of my favorites actually. It's the engineer, Miss Leanna Lee. Now the engineer, she's got some kind of toolbox here, which is really cool. This is bent a little bit, but it's nothing that you can't fix. Her, of course, like the little wrench in her hand is bent, but I mean, you're going to get that with a lot of models. The good thing of doing it at this size is there's a lot of detail. She's got her backpack on, and she's got like a little, what I assume is like a little map or a solar panel actually on her back, which you can tell. And I just can't get enough of the little toolbox that she's got. Then we have the hunter, Frank Forrester. He's got the long gun. He looks just like his character card. The model sculpt looks really good. Of course, he's got, you know, his muscle shirt showing he's obviously the fittest to be the leader of any colony. And then finally, we've got the soldier, Mr. Gavin Guerrero. He's got his, what looks like, it looks like an M4, but it's got some attachments on there. Military garb, boots, he's got his military hat, and a nice backpack. So now that you've been able to see the models a little bit, let's bring in the map and I'll show you how they fit on the map. Alright, so here's a shot of the board. I wanted to get a nice close-up look so you can see each of the little hexes on here. And we're going to go with our trusty doctor. He's got the hex base, just like the rest of the models. And so you can see that he actually fits on the board relatively nicely. In fact, let's go to one of these over here. Let's go to this one. You can actually see that the hexes on the game board are actually a little bit bigger than the bases for the models. So you can still tell, you know, where the model's at, what kind of terrain they're on. They move along the board really easily. They are perfect size for the spaces, and like I said, it's a completely different game when you're playing with the models, and that's a closer look at how they actually fit on the board. As you can hopefully see, the models are definitely something you'll want to have for the game. I'm super happy that they were able to be released. I know Doom and Bloom had some issues with the art companies and the sculpting companies that they were going with. I'm super glad that they were able to work all that out. Playing the game with the models is super fun. Because right now in the game you actually have these little cardboard standees that you use for each of the characters. Now that's not horrible, but like I've learned with a game called Dungeon, those don't always stand up to the test of time, especially when you play the game as much as I do, because I just love survival. But I hope you enjoyed a look at the models. Those who backed the game on Kickstarter and chose the pledge level with the models in it, if you don't have them already, they should be coming really fast. If you are interested in getting some models, I would contact Doom and Bloom. I'm not too entirely sure how much they have left or if they even got any extras to keep on hand. I can't wait to paint the models. I'm going to get them super painted up, make them all look gritty and apocalyptic. And speaking of something like that, if you would like to see my process of painting the models, let me know. Leave a comment in the section below. I'll be more than happy to post a video on my painting process. And if you have any other further questions, go ahead and leave a comment as well, and we will chat. Until next time, guys, happy gaming.